as President Trump is set to sign an executive order to rename the Department of Defense the Department of War. His administration is threatening to carry out more military attacks in Latin America under the guise of the war on drugs after the U.S. blew up a boat off the coast of Venezuela.
You see it. You see the bags of drugs all over the boat. And they were hit. Obviously, they won't be doing it again. And I think a lot of other people won't be doing it again when they watch that tape.
The U.S. has deployed several ships, even a nuclear-powered submarine in the southern Caribbean. On Thursday, U.S. officials said 2 Venezuelan military aircraft buzzed a U.S. Navy ship in international waters.
Donald Trump has just overseen the destruction of another cartel drug boat, and the footage is absolutely jaw-dropping. If you thought the first strike was a statement, this second one proves Trump is dead serious about wiping cartels off the map. No hesitation, no apologies. America is done playing games, and the bad guys are finally on notice. Over the weekend, as a part of Operation Pacific Viper, the USCG Cutter Stone conducted 3 interdictions in a single night, seizing nearly 13,000 pounds of cocaine and apprehending 7 suspected drug smugglers. The explosion that shook the waters wasn't just some minor interdiction. It was a thunderous reminder of what happens when America is led by strength, not weakness. Picture it. The boat floating there, cartel smugglers already seized, the drugs taken. Most administrations would stop there, file the paperwork, and let the courts drag on for years. Not this time. Trump's America doesn't just slap a fine and let you walk free. They strapped explosives to the vessel, lit it up with gunfire, and sent it straight to the ocean floor. Pure, decisive action. The roar of that blast wasn't just metal being shredded. It was a message to every cartel boss still thinking about sneaking poison into our country. You come at us, we erase you. This is Trump's zero-tolerance strategy against the cartels, and it's working exactly as intended. The first strike annihilated 11 members of TDA, and now the second one shows this wasn't a one-off. This is a campaign. Trump isn't sitting around waiting for problems to multiply, he's cutting them off at the root. Remember the years when cartel violence ran unchecked? When politicians gave speeches while families were being torn apart by fentanyl and meth? That era is over. Trump's approach is brutal, direct, and unapologetic. And it's the only language cartels understand. You can almost hear the panic spreading through the ranks. These thugs aren't fighting local cops with rusty rifles anymore. They're up against the U.S. military and a commander-in-chief who doesn't blink. That's why America is safer today than it was just a few weeks ago. Operation Pacific Viper, that's the name of the mission, and it couldn't be more fitting. The Coast Guard didn't just seize 13,000 pounds of drugs in one night, they dismantled cartel logistics right on the water. 7 smugglers in cuffs, tons of narcotics gone, and a boat reduced to twisted metal at the bottom of the sea. Think about that for a second. These aren't symbolic moves. This is the U.S. government sending a Viper strike directly into the heart of cartel operations. No safe havens, no second chances, just swift justice. And you know what? The symbolism of sinking that boat is bigger than the steel itself. It tells the cartels their money, their tools, their empire, it all means nothing when America decides to shut you down. That's strength. That's deterrence. And that's what every American family deserves, a government that actually defends them instead of making excuses. Maduro, of course, is losing his mind. He's fuming on state TV, calling it imperial aggression, waving his fists like the tyrant he is. But let's be honest, Why is he so angry? Because Trump embarrassed him in front of the entire world. Venezuela's waters, Venezuela's people, they have been a launch pad for cartel poison for years, and Maduro turned a blind eye. Why? Because his regime is in bed with these narco-terrorists. Trump blew up the boat, and with it, he blew up Maduro's little game of denial. The dictator knows this isn't about one vessel. It's about exposing the dirty lifeline that props up his corrupt government. That's why he's screaming. Trump hit him right where it hurts. And if Maduro thinks crying about sovereignty will protect his drug partners, he is dead wrong. This is America taking back control, and Venezuela's dictator better get used to it.
That deadly U.S. military strike on an alleged drug cartel boat with ties to Venezuela. It's escalating already rising tensions in the region. President Trump celebrated the attack by releasing this video, which shows the moment a boat was blown up in the southern Caribbean. 11 on board were killed. Administration officials say the boat left Venezuela loaded with drugs on a well-known drug trafficking route. The Trump administration has set its sights on the Venezuelan president, accusing him of heading a drug cartel in his country, calling it a terrorist organization.
The president's been very clear that he's going to use the full power of America and the full might of the United States to take on and eradicate these drug cartels, no matter where they're operating from and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity. Those days are over.
Joining me now to discuss, Mariana Atencio, a freelance journalist who actually fled Venezuela to the U.S. almost 17 years ago. Welcome to CNN this morning.
Audie, thank you for having me.
Okay, so we've seen an actual military strike, and this was happening as Nicolas Maduro was kind of already on edge, trying to use this war rhetoric. Can you give me some context of how this escalated so quickly?
So, Audie, we have seen a level of tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela that we haven't seen in years. Essentially, Trump has mobilized around 8 boats, a submarine, and almost 5,000 Marines to the southern Caribbean to combat drugs that leave through Venezuela. Venezuela, because of its geographic location, is the perfect transit country for these drugs to leave for Europe and the United States. So it's not a producer, it's a transit country.
Did you see that? 11 cartel operatives erased in international waters. No hesitation, no loopholes, no safe zones. Trump drew a line and then obliterated anyone foolish enough to cross it. That is what leadership looks like. Swift, ruthless, and absolutely clear. And that's exactly why the symbolism of sinking the boat matters so much. When you seize a vessel, paperwork follows, lawyers swarm in, and somehow the criminals wiggle back into business. But when you blast it into the sea, you erase not just the drugs, but the hope of return. It's a permanent scar, a reminder to every smuggler that the game has changed. Think about the optics, smoking wreckage, waves swallowing that cartel's pride and joy. That image travels farther than any press release. It's humiliation for the cartels, devastation for their supply chains, and inspiration for every American who's sick of being flooded with poison. Trump understood this wasn't just about intercepting drugs, it was about crushing morale. Cartel bosses can buy new boats, but they can't buy back their fear once they realize the U.S. won't just confiscate anymore. We destroy, we bury, and that fear spreads faster than narcotics ever could.
We just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat, and you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over.
Trump himself couldn't have made it clearer. Straight from the Oval Office, he called out Venezuela as the pipeline of poison flooding our hemisphere. No dodging, no diplomatic soft talk, just hard truth. These cartels move drugs very heavily through Venezuela, and now they're finding out what happens when America finally fights back. Trump's words match his actions: decisive, lethal, and unapologetically pro-American. That brings us to the bigger picture: escalation. 2 boats destroyed, cartel operatives eliminated, and Maduro rattled. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a campaign designed to break the cartels where they live. Trump is showing them that the U.S. isn't tied down by bureaucracy anymore. Each strike builds momentum. Each destroyed vessel sends panic across their networks. What's next? Larger operations, leadership targets, maybe even the financial arteries that fund their empire. That's the escalation ladder. And once Trump starts climbing, there is no turning back. Now comes the question every American should ask: is this justice or provocation? On one hand, Trump is finally delivering justice to families poisoned by cartel drugs. On the other, Maduro and his allies are screaming aggression, trying to paint America as the villain. But here's the truth: the only provocation is cartel thugs smuggling death into our neighborhoods. Destroying their boats isn't aggression, it's self-defense. Justice is about protecting innocent people, and that's exactly what Trump is doing. Let the critics cry foul. Let the dictators whine about sovereignty. Ordinary Americans know the difference between protecting your people and letting them suffer. And for once, justice is winning.